All right, everyone, we're going to get started now. I want to welcome you all to the Microsoft Dynamics CRM training session, and thank you for taking the time to attend today. If at any point in time you have any questions, please feel free to type them into the question box, and I can either address them at that time or at the end of the session. If I'm unable to address your question during the allotted time we have today, I will get back to you individually. Of course, if you have any technical difficulties, don't worry because we will send this presentation out later. Now, just a small introduction of myself, also so you have a face to the voice that you're hearing over your headsets or speakers. My name is Angelina Jacobs. I'm a CRM consultant working for CRM Dynamics in Mississauga, Ontario. What I will be doing in these sessions over the next few months is just providing some basic training and perhaps refreshers for some on the fundamentals of Dynamics CRM. Also, at the end of the session, we will be taking a poll on what you might want to see in future training sessions. Today, we are ultimately looking at dashboards, but what we need to do is work back and first tackle the components that go into creating those dashboards. So what we're going to cover today are creating custom views, then creating the visual with charts, and then building the dashboards to be able to have a custom overview of the data you're most interested in. So to begin, I will be using CRM 2015. Depending on the version you use, things may look different, but the concepts are the same. And for this session, I am going to be looking into sales. So I'll bring up my CRM here. So let's say that I'm just part of or pretending to be part of a distribution company, and we have salespeople all across Canada, and what we do is we sell candy and other snacks to retail stores. So in our CRM, we have our invoices, and I'd be able to see things such as the dollar amounts of the invoice, the company it was sold to, their location, and the sales reps assigned to the companies, and so on. So what we're going to do first is we're going to create a view of what I want to see. And there's two different views that you could have. There's system views, and that's available to the whole company. So any user that's signed into CRM would be able to have access to that view. There's also personal views that you can create for just yourself. Depending on your security role, some of these things you may have access to, you may not. So I will show you the two ways or the two places that you can create these views. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you how to get into the back end of CRM if you have access to customize the system here. And there's a few different ways to do that. So I'll show you the most basic one, and that's just going into the settings of CRM. You'll see here I'm in the settings, and then I'm going to go into the customization section. In here, I can get into customize the system. You'll see here it pops up another window, and this is where I can see all the entities that are in my CRM. There are definitely some default ones here, but there's also custom ones that your company can create for themselves. So for this example, I'm going to be looking at the sales invoices in here. And you'll see here in this entity, I have some other views, so I can look at the forms, views, charts, fields, and so on. So what I'm interested in here is the views. And there will already be some built-in views. The most, or the one that you'll see in every instance is the active records. So that is the one way to get to this screen here. And I'll show you two other ways depending on what access you have. So if I went back to my sales and I'm in the view I want to see. So I'm looking at my sales invoices. There's also this ellipses up here, or the 3 dots as people call them. And it should give you some options here. So I have view, new system view, customize entity, system views. So again, I can click this customize entity, and I'm going to get the same screen pop up that gives me access into that entity. And you'll see here it's already selected, and I have the same options to choose from. Now, if you don't have access to this back end of the CRM, what you can do is when you're in this entity, you can click on this list here. So see how it already has the active sales invoices. What I can do too is I can create a personal view. So anyone should have access to create their own personal view. And these can be shared and assigned out afterwards if other people want to see these views. So that's another way to do it. So we're going to go back in here and we're going to create some views. I'll show you how to create a view from scratch, as well as just a tip of creating a quick view. So here, pretty basic, we're just going to go into new. And you'll see here that I can name my view and give it a description if I want. So let's say for my sales, I want to have a view that shows only sales for this month. So I'm going to say sales for this month, and I'm going to call that the view. It's pretty self-explanatory, but you can put in a description if you'd like. So if you create a view from scratch, it's pretty basic here. So all I have right now is a name. But what I can do is I can add columns to it that I would want to see in this view. So I just click on one of the columns and I go add columns. And you'll have this other screen pop up. And this is where I can add views. So I can show, let's say I want to see the account number on there, an invoice number, the date, and some totals. There's also some other fields you can choose here. Now, because I'm looking at invoices that are related to a company that I made sales to, I can also choose some different record types to add. So let's show you that. So we have them up here. I'm going to add, because I want to know what sales rep had these sales. So I'm going to add another column. The one thing to think about here is you can always move up the scale. So if I have a sales invoice that's related to a company, I can go think of it as a hierarchy. So I can go then to the company and add some fields from there. So let's say I want to add some other things here. So I have account number here in the company. This shows I could add the account number of the company, the city they're in, the province, and so forth. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add the sales rep and maybe the province, just so I know where it is. You go OK, and that's going to add it. What you don't see here, you can just use the scroll bar, and you can see the columns to the right. The other thing you can do in here is you can pick how you want your sorting to happen. So say I just want it to be sorted every time I look at this view to just sort by the date. So I'm going to select the column I want to sort by, click it, and then you'll see this configure sorting button on the right here. So right now I'm going to choose, let's sort by the invoice date and descending. You can choose a second one if you want to as well. I'm going to go OK. And there we go. So before I save this view, I want to enter in the filtering criteria so that it's custom to what I want to see. So if you see over here, you have edit filter criteria. Right now, there's nothing in there. And this is where you can add your filtering. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, usually always we want to see the status where they're active. So equals, and if I click this 3 dots here, I can say I only want to see active records. The second thing, too, I want to see is I want to see invoices that are only for this month, since that's what this view is about. So I'm going to click the invoice date. And if I click in here, you'll have quite a few options. So you have, last 7 days, last week, last month. But I'm going to choose this month. Make this window a bit bigger so you see. And then I just click OK. The other thing you can do here is you can change the width of these columns. So say for the name, I want it to be a bit bigger since there's going to be some company names in there. I'm just going to go to change properties And see these widths here? I'm just going to make it a bit bigger. Press OK, and you'll see how it's changed the width here. And then you just save and close. And you'll see here that my view is right here, sales for this month. So that's how you create a view from scratch. The other way and quicker way to do a view is to piggyback off one that you've already created. So say I have this one in here. I can open it up again. And say I want to have sales for last month. So I'm going to just go save as, and I'm going to change the name. So we're going to say sales for last month. Click OK. And you'll see it's saved another view. So sales for last month. Now before I go ahead, save and close, I do have to fix the filtering criteria. So instead of the invoice date being this month, I'm going to select last month. And then go OK. And then I can save and close. Now the one thing to remember is any changes that you make back here, although they're saved, they're not deployed yet to your CRM here. So when you want to do that, that's when you're just going to go publish all customizations. What I'll do is I'll do that at the end when I've created my charts as well. So I have sales for the month, or this month, and sales for last month as well. Now that I have the views, I can go into the charts here. Now when you're creating a chart, you don't have to necessarily create a chart for every view you want to see, but you do have to create a chart for charting the data and categorization that you want to see. So let's say I want to have a chart that just shows me the sales by sales rep. And let's make it a bar chart. You do have other options, so you have column, area, there's pie charts as well as the funnel. So it's quite similar to Excel. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select the invoice total because I want to know what their sales numbers are. I do want the sum, but you also have other options here. So you can do a count of all the records and so forth. I'm going to choose sum, and then I'm going to categorize by the sales reps. So this screen up here, this is just a preview so that you have an idea of what your chart will look like once you deploy it to CRM. So that looks pretty good. I can see all the different sales reps. I can see the amounts that they've sold. And up here, this is just choosing a preview view. So it's not necessary that once I save this chart's only going to show the view. This is just for your own purpose to see a preview of how your chart will look. So I'm going to save and close that. And then I'm going to create another chart. So let's say I want to have a chart that shows me the sales in all the different provinces. So I'm going to call this chart Sales by Province. And it's set up relatively the same, so I'm going to choose the dollar amounts. I want the sum. But what I'm going to do instead of choosing the sales rep is I'm going to choose the province, so it shows me how things are going in each province. So you can have a column. We could choose pie graph if you wanted to see it that way. It's all up to you. So we'll keep this one a pie graph just to have a different chart. And save. So now here you can see the different charts that we've created in this entity. I'm going to go back to views. And one more view that I'm going to create just so you guys have another idea of what we can do here is I'm going to do a quick view where I, again, open up one I've already created. I'm going to save it as a different name. So let's say we're also going to have sales for this year. Again, the one thing I do want to change here is just the filtering criteria so that I know it's only, or so I know it's taking all the data from this year. So instead of invoice date being this month, I'm going to choose this year. Okay, and then I'm going to save and close. So now that I've created some views as well as some charts, I'm going to publish all those customizations so that I can then see them in my CRM. So I hit publish. Usually only takes a couple seconds here, and we're good. So what I do to see those changes is I'm going to go back into my CRM and just refresh the screen. Okay, so I'm on my active view. If I click here, I should see a list of the views I created, and here they are. So I have sales for last month. I can click on that, and it's filtering. I can do sales for this month. So see here, it's only showing me things that were from June. Now in CRM 2015, we do have this nice charts section here, which I can then click and it's going to expand. So if you see here, just on the entity itself, I can have a view of the specifics I want to see, as well as a visualization here in the chart. Again, you can go up here and I can choose the different charts that I've created. So let's see, sales by sales rep. And this chart is always a real-time reflection of this data here. So right now, the view I'm on is sales for this month. If I choose sales for last month, the chart's going to update and show me that over here. The other thing I can do is I can drill down into the data itself. So let's say I have John Snow here. I click on his bar, and it's going to show me all his invoices for last month. I can click on Brittany over here, and again, it's going to refresh that view to show me all her invoices for last month. The same can be said for the other chart as well. So let's say I click on the sales by province. I can see here there's a lot of sales both in Ontario and Manitoba. So if I click on that, again, I can see all the invoices where the company is in the province of Ontario. So that's the basics for that. Now that we've created the views and the charts, we can create a dashboard where we can pull these so that you have one overall view of all the stuff that you want to see. So again, there's two ways of doing it. You can be in the back end here. I'll pull this up for you. If you scroll all the way to the bottom past the entities, you'll see the dashboard section here. So I can either click it this way, and I can create a dashboard brand new here. Or the other option, if you do not have access to this area here, is to go into your CRM and actually just pick dashboards. And then you should have an option to create a new dashboard here. So there's always a couple ways depending on the access you have in your CRM. So we're going to create a brand new dashboard. Here you can see there's different layouts you can have depending on how much you want to show and what exactly you want to be showing. I'm just going to pick your basic 3-column regular dashboard. I'm going to create it. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to name it. So let's call this, we'll call it a sales performance dashboard. So we'll say sales performance. And then I'll save that. And you'll see all these squares here where I can add different types of data. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to add a chart. So I can either click here on this little symbol that says Insert Chart. I can also click up here, which gives me the option as well to insert a chart onto my dashboard. So I want to insert one of my charts here. So when you're creating the dashboard here, this is where you're going to pick where you want to grab your chart from. So the record type, I was in the sales invoice entity. So that's what I'm going to go down and find. So sales invoice. I'm going to pick the view that I want to see. So for this one, let's pick sales for this month. So that'll be the first chart. And then I can also pick which chart I want to see. So I want to do the sales by sales rep. So this is what it's going to look like here. And then I just add it. So there's my first chart. What I can do underneath this chart is I can actually add the grid that actually gives me each record that's shown in this chart. So another way is here, insert list. And again, I just pick the record type that I'm looking for. In this case, it's sales invoices. And the view that I want it to show. So since here I've picked sales for this month, I'm going to have the same view underneath. And then I'm going to add it. So just in this preview, you won't see the data, but once we save the dashboard and view it in CRM, that's when we'll see this list. So again, I'm going to add another chart here. You have to pick the record type that you're choosing it from. So again, this is the sales invoice for me. So this view, I want to see sales for last month. So I pick the view, and then I'm going to pick the chart that I want to see. So I want to see, again, the sales by sales rep. And that way, maybe I want to do a comparison of how they're doing this month to how they did last month. So again, just a nice comparison side by side. And I can do the same thing down here where I might want to show the actual records. So again, I'm just going to pick the same view of the chart that I have there. So I'm going to pick sales for last month and then just click add. Again, you won't see the actual data just in this preview when we're creating the dashboard, but once we save it and view it in our CRM, the records will be here. And then I'm going to add a different chart. So that pie chart we created, just so you can see what it looks like. Again, I'm picking the record type. You could pick another one. It doesn't always have to be sales, so I could pick a different one if I wanted to have it on this dashboard. But since this is a sales performance dashboard, I'm just sticking to that. So the view, let's pick the one that we made for this year. And then I will just stick with the sales by province. So I have a good overview of how the sales are doing in each province this whole year. So that's from January 1st up until today. Gonna add that in, and then you can see that here. Once you're done with adding in your charts or grids, you're just gonna save your dashboard. And then I can close that here. Again, now that I've saved some changes and created a new dashboard, it will be in here, but I do have to publish in order to see it in CRM. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to say publish all customizations. And of course, depending on how many changes you make, it might take a little bit longer. Okay, so that's done. I'm going to go into here. I'm going to refresh my browser now that I've published my changes. So I'm already in my dashboard section, you can see up here. And then I can pick from the list of dashboards available to me. Because I created a system dashboard, it's going to be available to everyone in my CRM. So here's my sales performance. And there we have it. So I have the charts I added in, and then like I said, you can see the actual records that are related to this chart. You can also change the views here if you wanted to, but since I want it to represent the chart that's above, I'm going to leave it like that. So I have sales for this month. If I really wanted to, I could have a quick glance at, which companies they were. Same for last month. And then here. So the other nice thing too is depending how many charts you have on your dashboard, how big or small your screen is, you can also expand these charts. So say I log into CRM and I want to have this sales performance view first thing in the morning, and then I see, okay, this month we've got some good numbers. Maybe Brittany's not as active. She could have been on vacation. I can always just expand this chart here, and then I have a nice big view of the chart. You can do the same thing for the grids here if I want to see. It pops up the actual records here, and then I can drill down into the companies, the sales reps, the dates, the invoice numbers, and so forth. This is similar to how it would look if I was just in this CRM part 2, because I also have in CRM 2015 this chart section here. So it's the same thing where I can click on the chart, select the chart that I want to see, and this chart is always reflecting the view here. So if I say sales for this month, I could go back and say, let's see the sales for last month. And again, this chart changes only to reflect the data over here. I just had a question if the charts can be printed. You can do a screen print here. You can also export this chart and print it that way, or save it to your computer, whatever works for you. So I have a save here, or I have a export chart. Yeah, no problem. So that's our overview of dashboards. It's just a good way to know what has to go into your dashboard first. Everyone likes seeing charts. They're very handy to see on a dashboard. However, you do have to know that you have to create the views you want the charts to represent. And that pretty well concludes our training webinar on this topic. I do hope you found this helpful. And if you have any questions, I will allow some time now to answer them. You can go ahead and put those questions into the question box. Okay, I'm going to have a few more questions come in, but before anyone leaves, I do want to send out that poll just on what your thoughts are for some of the topics we could cover in our next few sessions. So I'm going to launch that right now. And if you could please just select the answers that would be best for you. And it's just to have an idea of what topics you want us to cover in any upcoming sessions. Okay, I had a question on when you export a chart, what formats can be used. I'll show you right here in our example. Let's say I do sales for last month. I'm just going to give a few more minutes to finish up the poll, and then I can share that screen again. Okay, I'm just going to close the poll for now, but it looks like the majority of people, about 50%, are more interested in the workflow and business rules. So thank you very much for voting on that. Okay, and just to again address when you're exporting a chart, it's always into Excel. So you can pick, I think there's like the spreadsheet, XML, Excel sheet, and so forth. Or you can just do a read-only, so it's something you can print. You can do the same thing with the records themselves. So if I wanted to have this in Excel so that I could actually manipulate the data a bit more, the same thing is true. So it would export into Excel, and then you can do, you know, any pivot tables or other charts in there. There are some other questions that are a little more specific, and as I said, I have no problem answering those. And what I'll do is I'll actually answer individually to the person that asked that. Okay, well, thank you everyone for attending this month's webinar. We will be sending out this presentation so that you can review or save or share with any of your other coworkers. And once again, just stay in the loop for the next month's topic. Again, you can see on the screen here if you have any other questions or comments, there's my email. Feel free to email me.